Sup everyone, Hezu here. I was working on my next video when the Helluva Boss video dropped, and you know I had to throw this together to give my input. Before I get into Season 2, Episode 2, if any of you are still confused about my last video, here's a chart I made with the bare basics. Before the circus episode, Blitz. Some random guy that stole his book through seducing him. Stolas enjoyed the one-night stand and manipulated him into sex in exchange for use of the book. They start catching feelings despite the initial business relationship, which causes complications because of their status, family ties, and baggage issues. Octavia was the daughter he wanted and loves very much, who he feels guilty got caught in the crossfire of his failing marriage with his wife. Stella was Stolas' wife that Stolas initially loved but had a falling out with over time as she became narcissistic and accumulated anger issues. Out of jealousy, embarrassment, and anger, she hires a hitman to kill Stolas in revenge. Stolas, complex character with questionable morality, messed up some of his relationships with those around him, leaving plenty of space for drama and growth. After the circus episode, Blitz, childhood friend who was purchased by his father to entertain him. Little Blitzo thinks Stolas' interests are boring. Manipulated Stolas to steal priceless artifacts from the Goetia home. Didn't see or speak to Stolas 25 years after that. Suddenly shows up one day only to manipulate Stolas again to steal his book. Doesn't initially share his feelings. Only screws Stolas out of pity. Octavia, daughter he never wanted. Symbol of Stolas' forced marriage and 25 years of suffrage and sacrifice. Her only purpose is to exist as insurance to the Goetia family and literally nothing else. Stella, wife who was an insane, narcissistic, anger-issued bitch the moment she was born. She was an arranged marriage for Stolas from the beginning that held no love. Only exists to torment Stolas as a flat villain character. Stolas, flat character who is also a closeted gay ooh-woo baby man who did nothing wrong and only wants love. Do you people see the problem now? And if you don't believe me, here's proof.
You slept with an imp, and now I'm fucking bad. It wasn't expected. I didn't have time to go to the motel.
Yes, you were here to ravish me, weren't you?
You?
Ooh. You want to fuck this one too?
No, of course not.
What the fuck was that, Stolas?
That was the sound of a fucking divorce! I'm sorry, sweetie. I thought you loved it here.
When I was a kid and my parents didn't hate each other.
I'm glad one egg fell out of me so I could stop pretending to want to fuck his scrawny twig ass. What a pathetic fucking man!
I just want to go home. But home doesn't even feel like home anymore. You ruined it.
The only reason I have endured your constant insults and cruelty was for that girl to have a normal life.
Who dare threaten my impish little plaything?
Here is your new friend, my son. Happy birthday.
A friend?
My first ever friend.
Is your date a demon prince? Stolas, is that you?
Are you sleeping with an imp?
My dark lord, how the mighty do fall. You used to have a smoking wife, a kid, you had it all. I hope you didn't give it up so you and him could get it up. You sold your life for a thrust!
Also, son, you are destined to sire a precautionary addition to the Goetia family, so you are now engaged. Congratulations. Isn't she charming?
You and I were arranged for one reason, to birth a precautionary heir to the Goetia family. Nothing more.
I want this cheating prick dead. I don't care who you have to go through. Make it happen! I know still being married isn't a big enough occasion, but to be fair, it's no picnic being married to a boring stiff like Stolas.
Stolas, don't act like what we have is anything but you wanting me to fuck you, okay? You make that really clear all the time.
How afraid do you want to be?
Oh, Blitz! What are you doing to me?
What do you want me to do to you?
Now, some things from the episodes contradict each other. It's constantly contradicting itself, so I don't really understand what's going on. I mean, come on, does Blitz love Stolas or not? Alright, now that that's over with, now moving on to Season 2, Episode 2. The writing team is not on the same page for this show. You know, everything happened and yet nothing happened in this episode. This episode was... Excuse me. In my opinion, this episode was rushed Whiplash 101. It is so hard to digest, so we're going to make things easier. I'm going to review this episode step by step. An episode breakdown, if you will. So the episode opens on a pretty poem by Stolas to his daughter. Child Octavia's voice actor did a much better job this time around. She's a lot lighter octave and softer spoken, which makes her sound more like a child unlike her initial debut, so that was nice. Good job.
Daddy! Daddy! I had a dream. A really bad dream.
Daddy, can we go see it someday?
Awesome work. Octavia excitedly has been marking off days in the calendar to see this meteor shower with her dad, and is even happy to go looking for him. In Octavia's initial debut, she was extremely annoyed and embarrassed to be with her dad, especially after all the fighting that has been going on between her and her parents. At the end of the episode, she decided her dad was okay sometimes, giving him a bit of leeway. I was very surprised and confused that she was genuinely looking forward to spending more time with her dad after she essentially told him in the Lululand episode that home doesn't feel like home anymore because you ruined it. And the fact that her parents are going through a divorce means there's other priorities at the moment. I mean, okay, maybe she feels better now that she spends time with her parents separately, or maybe she wants to cling to any semblance of normality during her chaotic family event, but any development of that was done off-screen. Stolas is on the phone with Stella, and he says, "No, I'm not turning her against you," which implies Stella does have a relationship with Octavia, and accuses Stolas of sabotaging the relationship between her and her daughter, though any potential relationship they may or may not have is never seen on screen. It's nice to see Stolas bicker with her. It's morbidly funny, and I wish we had seen more of that before the divorce to indicate just how badly their relationship had gotten, unlike the odd, submissive, guilty nature he displayed in the second episode, which would have made more sense had this been earlier in their relationship, and if they actually had a relationship instead of being arranged. Octavia decides to go see the meteor shower without her dad, so she sneaks into IMP and steals the book. Blitz tries to tell Loona to fix her behavior, and she responds by violently beating him up. She says, "If I'm so terrible, why don't you replace me?" And Blitz says, "Well, maybe I might. Yeah, that's right, it's tough love time. Go back to your desk." Loona storms off. She sees Octavia and says nothing, letting her slip right by. Now, to some people, that might have been a scummy thing to say, but since none of his affection has been working, he's trying a different tactic. See, he asked her to just be nicer to clients, and she responds in a violent, abusive way, even using the guilt trip game of, "If you don't like me, then just get rid of me." And for once, Blitz doesn't play her game. Now, this plot point is wrapped up very poorly. I'll come back to this later. Octavia snags the book and asks to be taken to the stars. She is teleported to Hollywood in the human realm instead. Blitz panics and reluctantly tells Stolas, who arrives by crashing through the building in fury. We cut back to Octavia, then we cut back to them. There's gonna be a lot of back and forth cuts in this episode, so buckle up. The gang tracks Octavia down, and for some odd reason, Moxie and Millie are there. There could have been a better way to separate them from the main group and not have them in this episode. They're completely pointless and a waste of time. Anyway, Loona and Blitz bring up the Moxie is fat joke again, and I don't understand why this is a running gag. Is this a studio inside joke? It's not funny. Stolas and Loona transform into their human forms. This is Stolas' human form debut, but it goes by so fast and there is no emphasis put on it. We have no time to digest it and celebrate the design. Blitz asks if he can have a human form too, but Stolas says he can't. First off, I'd like to point out that Stolas and Luna's human forms aren't needed. They're just pure fan service. Octavia was walking around LA just fine. Moxie was walking around LA just fine. They all thought that they were either possums or costumes. Like, that's completely normal in LA. So the whole plot of Blitz trying to disguise himself when he doesn't need to, literally at all, is just completely useless. See, after Loona tells them off in Spring Broken, in the Cherub episode, they take very, very good care to constantly be in disguises to prevent attention being drawn to them. They're not the best disguises, but, you know, it's silly Invader Zim logic. But then, 2 episodes later, in Truth Seekers, they are no longer wearing human disguises for some reason, and are captured by the government. Why were they not in disguises? Literally the one time they aren't disguised, when they have been so careful before, are spotted and captured. That is a major plot convenience. Honestly though, even in Spring Broken, they're spotted out of their human forms and mistaken for possums. In this episode, Moxie is told he's wearing a cool demon costume and even takes advantage to monetize off it. Even Octavia only gets a few weird looks from people, but is otherwise left alone. It seems like the writers only make humans notice them when it's out of plot convenience. But this time, it's the reverse. In this episode, it's a major plot inconvenience, where in an attempt to disguise himself, Blitz only causes problems and draws more attention to himself rather than help him blend in with the crowd. So we're getting mixed signals here. Anyway, Stolas says without his grimoire, his powers in the human world are restricted. Blitz scolds him about not memorizing his spells, which is odd because Stolas just performed the human transformation spell, so he clearly has that one memorized. I swear, this is just plot convenience again. But otherwise, this context clue may or may not explain why he sung about his power being frail, but that could have just been him referring to his political power. But also in episode 6, Stolas seemed to be very scary and very powerful just fine without his grimoire, so say it with me, folks. Plot convenience. Moxie and Millie are separated by the group as Moxie becomes obsessed with street art and music. We now have a C-plot, people. Why do we have a C-plot? We don't need a C-plot. We cut back to Octavia really, really briefly, only to go back to Blitz and the others. Blitz comes out looking like the elephant Dumbo and is mistaken for a famous actor that Octavia killed on accident prior in the episode and is suddenly swarmed by people. We cut back to Team Useless, which is unfortunate because this is the first episode where Millie's voice actor sings. Wish this happened at a more important moment in the series, but all well, that ship has sailed. Blitz and Stolas are kidnapped by a sitcom producer, and I spy with my little eye a reused crowd animation. Blitz instructs Loona to look for Octavia in their stead. Cut back to Octavia, cut back once again to Blitz and Stolas. Why are there so many cuts? This is driving me crazy. Blitz proceeds to have a panic attack over going on stage. He says, oh shit. I can't do this. No, not again. I haven't performed since. Which indicates Blitz was about to reveal some very traumatic shit with what happened to his career along with what happened between him, his family, and childhood friend Fizzarolli. Instead, Stolas interrupts him by saying,
Blitz, if your performance on stage is half as good as it is in bed, you'll leave them breathless.
Guys, where did last episode's plot go? Blitz and Stolas' reality check breakup from the past 2 episodes is completely non-existent here. They're super casual and even flirt with each other, which is very out of character considering all that has just happened. Did we learn nothing? What was all that Blitz said about not being in the mood to fuck Stolas? That Stolas only wants to sleep with him, and Blitz is tired of it, only to retcon it so he's the one who sexually manipulated Stolas to steal his book, and then that entire episode dedicated to Stolas realizing everything between him and Blitz was his delusional lie, and Stolas was planning on giving him Asmodean crystals so he could cut ties and get his book back. Why are you two, and the writers, acting like the past 2 episodes didn't happen? That there isn't a rift between you two? He even tells Blitz, break a leg, darling, all cheerful. Why is this a thing? It's bad writing. Oh, and then Blitz says his jokes and the audience is required to laugh. And Blitz suddenly feels elated that people are laughing at his jokes for once and overdoes it. It's sad because the laughing isn't real. It's a sitcom audience told to laugh, and Blitz gets distracted with that, sinking into his delusion that he's finally funny when he's not. He winks at Stolas, who gets flustered, and God, why are the transitions so fast? And why does Helluva Boss keep gaslighting these two? Stolas is gaslit and getting strung along by Blitz, thinking he loved him when initially he didn't, and now Blitz is being gaslit into thinking he's actually funny. This is just sad, really. Next, Loona sees that Octavia is posting her locations to Instagram. We then have an unnecessary montage of Loona running around all of Hollywood to track her down from her posts, and then we cut back to Stolas and Blitz. This montage didn't need to happen. Octavia just got off the bus, right? She's walking on foot. Loona literally runs around for what is perceived as hours across all of Hollywood, so much she's exhausted and out of breath. How did Octavia get so far so fast? Why couldn't we have just cut to the sun setting for their scene at night? Why couldn't this episode in LA start out at night for convenience? You might think I'm nitpicking, but Octavia was literally in that exact same store mere minutes earlier. She couldn't have gotten that far. This episode is literally advertised as a Loona and Octavia episode when they aren't the focus. They get like 4 minutes at the very, very end. Why couldn't this have just been a rebellious teenage party in LA episode? Why did we need 3 different plot points? Why did we need a big city chase scene? Why did we need plot convenience? We could have had it all, people. We got a piece of candy when we could have had a whole cake. Anyway, back to the 2 guys this episode really shouldn't have been about. The sitcom introduces a little dog, and Blitz has a flashback of being at the Hellhound Pound. He sees Loona, who has scratches on the wall, indicating she's been at the pound a very, very long time, and that she'll be turning 18 and will no longer be at the pound. She's insulted by the pound manager, saying she'll never amount to anything and good riddance. Blitz stares at her in empathy, feeling a sort of kinship to her. I kind of wonder what would happen to her when she did turn 18. I think it's implied she would just be kicked out like it's an orphanage and she'd be a stray dog on the streets having to fend for herself. But IRL, if a dog is not suitable for adoption, they get put down. Which honestly, I feel if they went that route, that would be super messed up and their relationship would run far deeper, since Blitz essentially saved her life. Well, taking her out of that pound and off the streets probably saved her life too, but having this flashback appear in the midst of what is supposed to be a comedic sitcom filler episode feels inappropriate and out of place. And not only is he having PTSD over someone else's trauma, but Loona's introduction in this episode was an awful start for this. Blitz saved her life. He has given her affection, protection, and family connection. How does she thank him? By constantly insulting him and abusively beating him. If she's just playing tsundere like she has been in some of the earlier episodes, that's one thing, but often her violence and aggression makes her come across as a bad person. Blitz is pulling all the weight in this relationship, and it feels like Loona doesn't care. Yes, they are in hell. Yes, they are bad people. But the show should know when to reveal their good side to appeal to the audience and develop their relationships. It shows they are more than just their violent nature, that they are complex individuals. You can't act like Blitz was in the wrong for not playing along with her guilt trip game. Loona is in the wrong. Her ungrateful, hateful attitude towards Blitz made her an extremely unappealing character in this episode.
Hi everyone, Future Hezu here. Ignore everything I just said. You see this? This right here? This is out of character. The only time Loona ever lays a hand on Blitz is when she firmly but gently pushes him away in embarrassment after nearly calling him dad. The rest of the show, she has been annoyed, insecure, and embarrassed, but she's never resorted to violence against Blitz. I don't know who approved of this, but this isn't Loona. I guess it's supposed to be comedic slapstick when Blitz's complex but secretly loving daughter throws knives at him, punches him in the eye, beats his head in with a picture frame, then kicks him in the nuts. Is Helluva Boss supposed to be a found family linear character arc drama, or is it supposed to be an adult black comedy with independent episodes? This show doesn't know what genre it is anymore. I'm sorry, but personally, comedy at the expense of characters and their development is unseemly and unwanted. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Take it away, Past Hezu.
I'm calling it. Episode 3 and 6 had peak character development between these two. These episodes happened way too early. Blitz proceeds to murder everyone on stage and set everything on fire.
I'm coming, Blitz! Excuse me, would you mind?
What the yassified. He's a Blorbo! Blitz is having a manic episode and being attacked by humans. Stolas' daughter is alone in the human world, vulnerable and lost, and Stolas is just... Seriously, what happened to you? You aren't Stolas! Then frickin' Blitz grabs hold of Stolas and says, "Let's go find our daughters." And Stolas falls fast and hard. That scene would be funny and adorable, but considering what happened in the last 2 episodes, I'm only more confused on what the heck is going on. Stolas was gonna let him go, but now he's just falling right back into his web. Is Blitz still leading him on? Do you love each other or hate each other? This is just ridiculous. Loona finally finds Octavia at the observatory, and we get a fantastic scene between Loona and Octavia. Sure wish they were the focus of this episode like the thumbnail advertised. Octavia asks Loona, "Why does my dad hate my mom more than he loves me?" "Because you weren't wanted. Your birth was ordered by your grandfather. Your parents were arranged. They didn't want you. You were forced upon them. Stolas loves you now, of course, but if it were his choice, you wouldn't exist." Does Octavia still not know her parents were arranged? Like, this is why I made a big deal about Octavia being a daughter Stolas never wanted now. Like, this is such a messed up situation right now. Stolas felt the need to play a facade for some reason. He suffered for 17 years in his daughter's name, and it feels like it was for nothing at this point because now they're both suffering. I still have no clue why these two had to stay married. Octavia and Stolas would have both been so much happier if Stolas had broken things off earlier, especially if this was an arranged marriage. What does Stella have to lose from divorcing Stolas? She hates him. What is the context here? What is at stake? Stolas is acting like he got the bad end of the relationship, but really, Stolas has a purpose. Stella doesn't. Even Stella, she's just like, what do you think the Goetia family will think if we get divorced? She's acting like Stolas is gonna get in trouble, but why would any of that be Stolas' fault? Why would they be mad at Stolas? Stella is the useless one here. Stolas has the grimoire. He does magical research. What does Stella do? She just screams over the phone and throws parties. Honestly, if Stella was infertile, she'd be screwed. Usually she'd be blamed for the failing marriage. And she should be. I mean, she's the one who didn't put any effort in. She has no purpose. All she does is cause problems. Anyway, Loona does explain to Octavia things are complicated and probably has the most mature, supportive conversation of her arc. Again, really, really beautiful moment between these two. Wish we'd seen them hang out more, especially since they're bound to be future sisters-in-law. What's annoying, though, is Loona talks about how dads mess up all the time, but they're trying and that's what matters. I don't understand how Blitz messed up. He's overprotective of her, yes, but for good reason. And they already had that conversation. We've already had this character development. Otherwise, Blitz has done nothing but good for Loona from day one. She's the one who messed up. I don't get why she's suddenly like, yeah, my dad messed up and I forgive him. That only applies to Octavia, not you. You're the one who suggested he get rid of you. Don't act surprised when he's not going to play your game. That's on you, Loona. They reunite with their dads. Blitz runs over to hug Loona, apologizing for threatening to get rid of her, which he really shouldn't apologize for, and she kicks him in the groin. Again, I don't like the way this relationship is portrayed in this episode, and I'm really starting to dislike Loona. Would it kill you to improve your attitude and violent tendencies, especially towards your adoptive, loving father? She at least respected him in episode 6. What the heck happened? Octavia and Stolas hug and talk to each other. Stolas realizes they missed the meteor shower he promised her and apologizes, and she forgives him. Very sweet moment between them. Blitz tries to hug Loona and she slams the book in his face. Anyway, they look at some beautiful fireworks, which makes up for the missed meteor shower. Then we cut back to Mr. and Mrs. Inconsequential for a final funny, I guess, and then the episode ends. So much happened in this episode, and yet absolutely nothing happened in this episode. It feels out of order. It feels like the past 2 episodes didn't happen. We had a dramatic sob fest, and now it's like filler with sprinkled in important character arc scenes. Okay, this episode should have been split into 3. One for Stolas and Octavia, one for Blitz and Loona, and one for Octavia and Loona. We could have had a lot more scenes with these guys. but we had way too many plots shoved into one. The pacing is way too fast. I think this episode had a different newish writer to the series, so maybe they didn't have the best writing debut. Maybe they're still on a learning curve for what works best, I don't know, but it feels very disjointed from the series. It feels like one moment a dramatic, action-packed dark comedy with its own identity, and the next it's like a bad fan fiction, and then the next it's like bad Family Guy humor. I mean, look at this fast pacing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Look, everyone! It's Hollywood star Brennan Rager!
The fuck is a Brendan Rager? Oh,
3, 1,
dear.
2, 1, 2, 3. Like, Blitz doesn't even finish his sentence. You blink and we have chaos. And with the 3 plots, it's too jam-packed. I think I can safely and dismayingly say, structurally, this is the worst episode of Helluva Boss so far. I can't tell if Helluva Boss is spiraling by getting gradually worse, or if it's circling by completely undoing its scenes and character development. This entire series is 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Somehow it's doing both at the same time. This episode was just exhausting. My concern for this show's future is gradually increasing. It's very unfortunate. If you guys like flat characters and a very low chemistry romance, you do you, but I just don't think it fits Helluva Boss. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me and my therapy I require from consuming Helluva Boss media. Have a good day now. Bye-bye!